Gold. While the name comes from an Old English word meaning yellow, the symbol comes from the Latin aurum, which means shining dawn. Known from ancient times along with mercury, sulfur, copper, silver, lead, and tin, gold was used as early as 6000 BC. Early use included for jewelry such as bracelets and rings, as well as ornamentation. Its malleability means that its early use in any practical item was impossible, so it was restricted to decoration. The civilizations which employed it included the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Mesopotamians, and the Romans. Through a majority of recorded history, especially since around 560 BC and the mining of the first gold coins, the yellow metal has been a preferred form of money across most civilizations. Although many people may know gold for its use in jewelry, it has a number of other uses. About 25% is used in industrial applications, in ceramics, electrical, and electronics applications. This week on Dorado Shines, you will learn more about the operations of the Guyana Gold Board as it celebrates its 32nd anniversary. Over the years, the GGB has expanded its services to transform the gold mining sector.
During the 32 years, Guyana Gold Board would have provided a very valuable service in the mining sector, in particular, intermediating gold from small and medium-scale miners. We have situations where, for most of the 32 years, there was an upward trend in prices, which were very beneficial to the miners in the sector because they were reacting positively to the higher prices by increasing production.
While production levels in 2013 were the highest in the country's history, falling prices have posed a challenge in the industry.
Last year we have had, in terms of 2013, the highest level of production of about 480,000 ounces, just around that area, which was the highest even when we had OMI, large-scale mining in Guyana. After the mid 2012, we would have seen a dip in prices, and that dip in prices would have caused somewhat, in terms of from the financial side, some problems for miners. However, because of higher prices before and their profitability, they would have been able to cushion the fall in price. And that is the reason why we would have realized last year, although prices would have been lower than in 2012 and 2011, we would have seen an increase in production.
The Guyana Gold Board believes that long-term relationships of trust and respect must be established between stakeholders in order for a growing gold mining economy like Guyana to be sustained. Guyana has also received a significant level of royalties and taxes because of higher production prices, which was somewhat modest, but at the same time did provide for an improvement in the overall well-being for stakeholders in the sector. The GGB is also ever mindful of disparities in the quality of gold being produced and what is being declared.
There will always be a disparity in the sense that what is produced is not always declared, because you'll have some miners holding on to the gold for higher prices, and as a result you'll find that disparity. But eventually it would have to come into the market to be declared if it ought to be, sold or intermediated, either by the dealers or to the Guyana Gold Board.
Over the years, the functions of the GGB have expanded to cater to many changes in the industry.
The function of the Guyana Gold Board evolved over time. First, it was the only entity that was involved in intermediation of gold, that is, buying gold from miners and selling gold both internally and externally. However, over the last number of years, the Guyana Gold Board has licensed a number of private dealers, and they are also helping in the intermediation to make it more efficient for the market. In addition to licensing of dealers, the Guyana Gold Board is involved in collecting of taxes for the Guyana Revenue Authority and royalties for the GGMC. Of recent, the Guyana Gold Board function has expanded a bit more by now regulating the sector from the perspective of anti-money laundering and countering terrorist financing. So the role of the board has been evolving, expanding.
The Guyana Gold Board provides functional services to other organizations such as the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission, the Guyana Revenue Authority, and the Natural Resources and Environment Ministry. The GGB also plays an important role in ensuring the gold Guyana exports meets international standards.
The board has an important role. We buy gold at certain purity level, which would range between the high 80s to mid or just above mid 90s in terms of percentage of purity of gold. That gold is then sent to the Royal Canadian Mint, where it is further refined to achieve a purity of 99.9%. The gold, after being refined to that level, is then being sold in the international market. So at any and every time, gold that is sold in the international market is pure gold at 99.9% purity.
It is recognized that much potential lies in value-added gold production activities. Efforts are being made to have the local industry take full advantage of this, which would ultimately lead to higher economic returns for operators as well as the country.
The Gold Board is trying to have stakeholders involved in these kinds of activities. We have had interest from potential investors to set up refinery in Guyana, which would have been a kind of a value-added kind of operation. Also, we are trying to get jewelers on board so that they can also be involved in value-added. And the Gold Board is there, prepared to provide or to lend support in these activities.
While production figures have been favorable in recent years, the operations of the sector and role of the GGB have not been without its challenges.
The current challenges we have would have been the volatility in international prices, because we have more downs than up in terms of the volatility in prices. So it is difficult for the miners and also the Gold Board, although the Gold Board played an important role in being a stabilizing force for the miners, because it buys gold at London first and second fix, whereas prices within those fix would be moving up and down. So in terms of the intermediation level, you will find that the Gold Board is always in a challenging position. But we also have challenges from the perspective of able to meet or to provide the services in the mining areas to miners. Obviously, you need, a proper infrastructure, technostructure in place to offer the service, and you don't find the human resources. So you always find a problem for the miners to be able to intermediate gold. And that is one of the reasons why we have given out, license to dealers, private dealers license, to facilitate and help in this regard.
The Guyana Gold Board has been working to strengthen management, improve security and internal controls, improve staff working environment and compensation, and expand and deepen its intermediation functions. Going forward in 2014, gold prices are expected to remain unstable as the trends that were experienced in late 2013 continued in the first quarter of 2014. The Gold Board projected that the global demand for gold is unlikely to grow but will not decrease. The Guyana Gold Board will continue to provide the vital services needed in the ever-changing industry with the ultimate goal of providing an enabling environment for the continued growth of the sector.
Well, I see the Gold Board continue to provide its intermediation function, licensing of private sector dealers, perform this regulatory role now with respect to countering terrorist financing and anti-money laundering transactions that might be or could be in the making. But we need to ensure that miners do have a market for their gold, and so that we can also provide a more efficient intermediation and payment system to them. That will help tremendously in their activities to continue to increase production, which will earn export earnings, increase in royalty and taxes, and in the end provide for the general welfare improvement of all stakeholders.
Gold is the softest and most malleable metal. It can be pressed extremely thin, crafted into various shapes, even drawn out to form a fine wire, and all without breaking. Gold isn't affected by water or oxygen as many metals are, so it doesn't rust or tarnish either. Most gold comes from lode deposits, also called vein deposits, concentrations of gold and other metals in the cracks of rocks. Lode deposits require hard rock mining, the process of removing gold-bearing rock, called ore, by drilling and blasting. After blasting the rock apart with explosives, miners use what's called a muck machine to transfer the ore to cars headed to the main shaft and then above ground to the mill. There, a crusher reduces the large chunks into smaller rocks about the size of road gravel. A mill then pulverizes them to the texture of beach sand. The factory adds a water and cyanide solution, then another mill grinds it further into a mud-like pulp. The pulp flows into large settling tanks. The wet solids, being heavier, sink to the bottom. The water at the top drains to another area. They transfer the wet solids to an agitation tank and blow in air. The oxygen sets off a chemical reaction between the cyanide and the gold trapped in the ore, triggering the gold to dissolve and leach into the surrounding water. Drum filters then separate the water from the solids. This water now joins the water that was separated earlier. They pour in zinc powder to solidify the dissolved gold and form pieces containing both zinc and gold. To smelt it into bars, they first have to mix several chemicals: manganese dioxide, fluorite, silica flour, borax, and sodium nitrate. This chemical mix, called flux, will separate the gold from the impurities. They pour it into the smelter, whose temperature is a fiery 1600 degrees Celsius. They rotate the smelter so that the contents heat evenly. Over 2.5 hours, the heavier gold eventually sinks to the bottom, while the impurities, called slag, float to the surface. They pour out the slag, taking a sample to make sure it contains no gold. If it does, it goes back in until it's gold-free. By now, the gold has cooled slightly, so they reheat to 1600 degrees Celsius, then cast into bar-shaped molds.
Troy Resources is a South American-focused gold producer with operations in Brazil and Argentina and a development project in Guyana. The company has operated in South America since 2002. Its success built on developing high-grade deposits at low cost. Troy's strategy to continue building its presence in South America took a major step forward in July 2013 when it acquired Azimuth Resources via a friendly off-market script takeover. The experience Troy has gained operating in the tropical Amazon basin will be invaluable in developing its new project in equatorial Guyana. Azimuth was a successful gold exploration company focused on the rich gold-bearing greenstone belt of Guyana. Guyana is a stable democratic country of 770,000 people that has a rich endowment of gold and other metals. The geological potential of Guyana has long been known. Thousands of small artisanal mines have been producing hundreds of thousands of gold ounces every year through alluvial mining. Today, Guyana is on the cusp of becoming a major gold producer to rival its South American neighbours. Some of the world's largest gold deposits are clustered near the border of Guyana and Venezuela, marking the western starting point of the Guyana Shield, one of the single largest underexplored greenstone belts in the world. This 1,000-kilometre belt spanning 4 countries is host to over 100 million ounces of gold. Toraparu is Guyana's largest mineral resource discovered to date, and from here it's a short journey to Troy's new gold projects. Adjacent to one of Guyana's most historically productive gold mines lies Troy's West Omai tenements. The ground is highly prospective and has hosted many artisanal workings. The most recent resource estimate for West Omai is 1.65 million ounces of gold at a 1 gram cutoff, with ore grades averaging 3.1 grams per tonne. Initial exploration in this 1,000 square kilometre area has focused on the Omai-Hicks corridor. 2012 drilling and alluvial works identified a 12-kilometre long mineralised zone. Smarts is a high-grade deposit with a JORC-compliant resource of 8.1 million tonnes at 4.2 grams per tonne gold for over 1 million ounces of contained gold. Smarts has a 2.8 kilometre strike length with 83% of ounces within a 1.7 kilometre zone. 80% of ounces are also within 140 metres of the surface. This high-grade resource outcrops to surface and is conducive to a low-cost open-pit mine being developed. A further 8,000 metres of infill drilling has been undertaken in 2013 to establish reserves for an initial pit. As a significant shallow, high-grade deposit, Smarts is positioned very favourably amongst its peers and has the ability to withstand a lower gold price. Just 3 kilometres from Smarts, at the Hicks deposit, there's an opportunity to develop a second pit which would ultimately feed the same mill. 2012 drilling identified a robust, semi-continuous mineralisation over 2.5 kilometres. At both Smarts and Hicks, preliminary test work shows that the gold is amenable to cyanide leaching with 93% average recoveries. A good proportion of the gold can also be recovered through gravity methods. In Guyana, Troy plans to use its successful approach of identifying suitable second-hand plant to allow it to define the flow sheet and complete a feasibility study. By minimising upfront capital costs and constructing a scalable operation, it's expected that early cash flow will help fund future expansion and exploration in the region. Troy now has the largest landholding in the Guyana Shield, with over 8,700 square kilometres under licence, in an area that's mostly uninhabited. Its large East Omai project area on the border of Guyana and Suriname has had no significant exploration to date. It's wholly owned by Troy and located between 2 very productive mines, the now closed Omai mine to the west and the multi-million-ounce Rosabelle gold mine in Suriname. In 2014, Troy expects to continue to explore this highly prospective ground, following on from preliminary drilling by Azimuth in 2012. With 2 operating gold mines, an advanced project, and highly prospective exploration ground, Troy is on the cusp of its next stage of evolution.
A 33.3 megawatt ball mill valued $5 million recently arrived in the country to aid in the operations of Troy Resources Limited's Kuruni Gold Project. The Kuruni Gold Mining Project, an $86 million investment by the Australian company, has a lifeline of up to 8 years and is expected to create over 500 jobs for people not only in Region 10 but across the country.
This particular project has been in the making for several years, and there have been many challenges, both from the investor standpoint, and as Ken pointed out, we saw the evolution to where we are here today in terms of new ownership and probably a new company from what had originally started out as another company, another Australian company coming to launch what we consider medium size, I don't know how you term it, medium to large size gold mining project. But for us in the government and for us as Guyanese, we ought to be proud of the fact that this project is moving at what we could say at a reasonable pace. Because over the past several years, we would have had much discourse and much deliberation about a large-scale mining project in Guyana.
Chairman of the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission, Clinton Williams, said the project is another milestone for Guyana's mining industry.
As you know, a project is an exciting, is a time-based and is a cost-sensitive exercise. And any delays, for whatever reason, would impact not only on the completion time but also on the cost of the establishment and obviously on the returns and the margins that the company will generate. So let me just say on behalf of the Commission, we're indeed happy to be here and to be facilitators of this particular exercise, of this investment, and we plan to continue to be a partner way down into the future until the mine life is completed, and that'll be a long, long time.
Troy's Chief Executive Officer Ken Nilsson said one of the objectives is to get Guyanese, the government and the business community support and work together towards one goal, thereby ensuring the project is successful. In July 2013, the company acquired Azimuth Resources Limited, which had discovered and delineated a high-grade gold resource in Guyana. Troy is continuing with infill drilling of the resource and is targeting the release of a pre-feasibility study in mid-2014, and if positive, would look to move quickly to project construction.
We do hope that the life of this project can be extended based on additional prospecting, based on additional reserves and resources identification. And I'm quite sure, given the work already done and the interest shown by other local miners themselves in terms of how it is we can collaborate and look at joint ventureship, we can see this project as being one that will be featuring in our country for many, many years ahead. So we're happy that we've been able to reach this milestone with the arrival of the mill itself, and we do hope that we move very quickly. All of us share the eagerness in terms of having the mill move from here and we can visit the construction site, but very importantly, be able to witness the first bars of gold coming out of the Kuruni project, and certainly it bringing income to the country, but also allowing shareholders of the company to continue to see Guyana with a positive light they've seen, for the demonstration of confidence in Guyana. And we do hope that this project, this investment, will see other Australian companies coming. You know, there have been debates in our media from time to time, and I want to address this in terms of the role of foreign companies in the mining sector. Whether they be Australian, American, Chinese, Indian, Brazilian, and there is a place. We're a country that we're open for investment. And we're not doing that at the disadvantage of Guyanese. In fact, we're looking at synergies, not only from the standpoint of respect, but also looking at how it is our small and medium scale miners do, that they can develop the type of linkages, that they can also benefit from the growth and from even the prosperity of projects such as this. And for us, it is creating what we call a win-win, where we have large foreign investments certainly also benefiting not the country as a whole, but also the small, medium, and national operators too in this regard. And I see this project, as we've insisted on the other large-scale project, fulfilling that objective and fulfilling that mandate.
Check us out on the internet for this and every episode of Dorado Shines. Just go to YouTube, search for Dorado Shines and start watching, or like us on Facebook and receive instant updates. You've been watching Dorado Shines. Do join us again next week for another program, Until then, do remember that we all have a role to play in protecting the environment.